Hello again, everybody. I've got another story video for you. This is another one of my creepypastas that I wrote yesterday. Submitted it to Reddit nosleep, and people seem to like it so far, so I thought I'd read it to you. It's called "Why I Don't Sleep in the Old Dacha Anymore." And this is written from the perspective of a Russian gentleman. My name is Sergey. I work as a driver for a haulage company based in the Krasnoyarsk region of Russia. My rig is an old ex-Soviet military Gaz-66. The company bought many of them after the collapse of the Union. We like them because they are cheap, reliable, easy to maintain, and they drive great on the poor roads we have out here. Plus, sometimes I have to go off-road through forests if my load is destined for a logging or mining camp out in the middle of nowhere. I've been doing this for almost 30 years now and have been all over this massive country. I want to tell you the story of an experience I had when on a job back in 2001. I was driving a load of coal from a mine near Kansk to a big foundry outside Irkutsk in a neighbouring region. It was an overnight drive, almost 1,000 kilometres from point to point. I'd made the drive many times before, as they were a good customer and we had many contracts with them. Along the route is an old dacha, a Russian seasonal home, which I believe was used by the director of a military research facility during the Cold War. It has been abandoned for many years, so because it was on a regular route, me and some of the men from work took it over as our place to sleep on overnight trips. All the windows still have glass, and the stove still works, so we can cook ourselves a nice little meal and warm up for the night while we get some sleep. We had been using it for many years with no problems. I used to relish going that route because the dacha felt much more homely than a hotel. The house my grandmother lived in when I was a child was much like it, so I felt very nostalgic when I slept there. That was until 2001. This run was in late autumn. It got dark very early, and when I got to the dacha at around 10 PM it was hard to see anything around the place. I parked up my truck and made my way to the door. Everything seemed normal then. I got inside and went straight to the kitchen. We keep some supplies there, canned foods, bread, stews, basic ingredients and the like. I cooked myself up something and turned on the radio to listen to some tunes. That was when I first noticed something odd. I thought I could hear something moving around outside, running around the dacha like it was searching for something. I thought it was just some animal. The dacha was close to some woods and there are lots of creatures in there that often come sniffing around human houses. I ignored it and carried on with my meal. Once I was done, I decided to go to bed so I could get an early start in the morning. So I went upstairs to the little bedroom and climbed into bed after setting the alarm. I hadn't been in bed long when I heard whatever it was outside again. I heard the creaking of the wooden walls of the dacha as it climbed up the roof of the lower floor. I laid in bed, looking out of the small window to see if it would show itself, the full moon perfectly framed. After a few moments something loomed into view, blocking the moonlight. Two large, bright eyes stared at me through the glass. I felt as if those eyes stared into my very soul, and a part of my mind said to me, "Sergey, this thing means you harm. You better get the bitch out of there." I jumped out of bed and grabbed my coat, throwing it on as I ran down the stairs. I could hear the thing following me, running across the roof and jumping down onto the grass. I reached the door and stopped, peering outside to see if I could see where it was, but it was too damn dark. The dacha had no power, so I couldn't turn on the outside light. I had no idea where the horrible thing was, or if I had any chance of making it to my truck. I waited a while, listening for any sound that might give me a hint as to where it was. Suddenly, I heard bounding feet, and out of the dark this thing threw itself at the door. I stepped back, screaming as it hammered on the door trying to get in. I could see it well in the light from the fire in the stove. and I felt the warmth drain from my body. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before, its features distorted and hideously out of proportion, yet oddly familiar. I don't know what it was, but looking at this thing I could almost think of what it was, but I could not put my finger on it, like some dark, hidden corner of my mind recognised it instinctively, but I had no memory of it. The door was not going to hold for long, so I scrambled for the only window I could see large enough to fit me. I made it outside, tearing my jeans and cutting my leg on a nail as I pulled myself out. I looked around. The sound of the creature pounding on the door had stopped, but I could not hear it walking around. I creeped forwards, towards my truck, which was parked at the end of the path leading to the dacha. I got in view of the door that had been separating it from me while I was still inside. To my horror, it was in splinters, and the monster was nowhere to be seen. I started moving towards my truck again, when I heard a blood-curdling roar. Looking back and seeing the thing climbing out of the window I had just used, I ran faster than any 40-something chain-smoking vodka swiller had ever run in his life. I could hear the thing snarling as it came after me. My feet hitting the ground and my own breathing were louder than I thought possible. I got closer and closer to my truck. It was gaining on me. I could hear its own breathing now. I grabbed frantically for the handle of my beloved 66 and pulled the passenger door open, heaving myself in and slamming it closed. I slipped behind the wheel and turned the key, the engine roaring to life and drowning out the horrible snarling of the beast. I gunned the throttle and sped off down the road towards the main highway. The beast chased me for what felt like kilometres, slowly losing ground to my powerful old gas, until I could no longer see it in the mirror anymore. I drove through the night and did not stop until I reached Irkutsk, spending the rest of that terrible night shivering in a hotel bed in the centre of the city, far away from that haunted old dacha. I never went anywhere near that place again, concocting some story that a bear had broken into the dacha and attacked me to try to convince the men I work with not to sleep there anymore. I hope they listened. I wrote that over the course of about an hour last night. I hope you enjoyed it, and please give me any feedback if you have any.